What's up, you guys? Welcome to Walk the Line. I'm going to be giving you my 3 most confident picks in fighters that are going to find that knockout at UFC 310. I'm talking about out of all 28 fighters on this card, who are my 3 most likely to get that one-shot snipe KO, or even if they put a surplus amount of damage on an opponent, break them down, get a TKO. We're talking about that too. All KO/TKO finishes will count here. My 3 most likely. Will dissect the betting lines on those targets as well. You guys got to give me some feedback. Let me know what you think about my list and give me your top 3 fighters to get the KO on this last pay-per-view event of the year. We're jumping straight into this one, so smash that like button right now. Subscribe if you haven't already. And just note, we are powered by BetUS. If anyone out there is looking to sign up to a new sportsbook, reach out to me through my social media, shoot me a DM or email me. I'll give you a referral link that will give you a 150% match in your first 3 deposits, and I will give you an additional gift. It's a great time to take advantage of that opportunity going into this card, because my gift is going to correlate to you putting some money in your pocket as well, because I got some major targets for the UFC 310 fight card. We've been dismantling our UFC bets for the last 6 months, and I'm definitely going out with the bang for the last pay-per-view event of the year. And ironically, it just worked out perfectly, where we have these beautiful targets just sitting there on a platter for us to take advantage of. I have 4 official plays locked in for this card. I'm telling you guys, it's going to be another profitable night. I think we hit the clean sweep for this one.
The teller.
My first pick is going to be Joshua Van to get that knockout over Cody Durden. Durden is a fighter that struggles defensively on the feet at times. He's only been knocked out once as a pro, but you take a look at the 4 submission losses that he's had. Okay, he is a fighter that when he's losing, he is being finished typically. He's only lost once via decision. All 5 other of his losses have come by way of finish. And even in some of those fights where he was subbed, he was hurt standing first, and that kind of led him to being subbed. We've seen him kind of crumble in those high stake type of fights where there was a lot of animosity or just a lot of energy going into the match. I think that this is one of those fights all day. I think Joshua Van is going to come out like a bat out of hell. This is one of the earlier fights in the card. Joshua Van is just getting more and more confident. He bounced back with the victory in his last fight. He's a fighter that had a lot of knockouts on the regional scene that hasn't necessarily translated just yet in the octagon, but he's faced some very durable and tough fighters. He's just 23 years old. The work rate's going to be crazy for Van, okay? He's landing 8.39 strikes per minute in the octagon right now. This is going to be one of those types of fights. He's going to be throwing the kitchen sink at Durden nonstop. I have a gut feeling that Durden's going to break down in this fight, and it may not be that one-shot snipe KO, but I could see Durden being hurt and kind of falling to his back and eventually being finished up TKO style here. I think that Van finds the finish here. The work rate's going to be crazy. I think that Durden falls short once again in a big fight. Van is currently a -155 favorite over at BetUS. You take a look at the under 2.5 rounds. That line is flat at pick'em odds there. And if you're looking for that KO prop, you're going to get something in the range of plus 230 on that. So that line's looking a little juicy. I think he finds that TKO. My number 2 pick is going to be the Butcher, Bryan Battle, to get that knockout over Randy Brown. First and foremost, I want to talk about the momentum that Battle is bringing into this fight. We'll get to Brown after that, but Bryan Battle essentially on a 4-fight winning streak, all 4 of those victories coming by way of finish. All right, when you take a look at the Ange Lusa fight, for those of you guys that remember how that played out, that was without a doubt a finish. He was breaking Lusa down. Lusa wanted nothing to do with fighting Battle anymore. He was looking for a way out. You guys know the history of how that fight ended, as Lusa suddenly wanted to fight him after there was a huge group of people in the octagon. But make no mistake, in his last fight against Kevin Jousset, he looked amazing, breaking Kevin down in the 2nd round. Kevin's a high-level striker, too. That was very impressive. The more that fight went on, Battle just kept picking up the pace. These guys are going to have a tough time hanging with them. They're going to break down in these types of fights. Battle has crazy cardio, and he's just a savage. You take a look at the 2 other victories before that. He submitted AJ Fletcher, but he knocked out Gabriel Green in the 1st round in just 14 seconds before that. Had that disappointing loss against Rinat Fakhretdinov where he was taken down a lot, but look at the victory he had before that. Another 1st round KO where he actually hit Sato with a nice little head kick there, showing some diversity in his attack. But make no mistake about it, what makes him so dangerous and so live to find these KOs is the fact that he's just so savagely tough, and he pushes a crazy pace when he's in there. He's going to be pressing Brown throughout this fight. Look at the stats here, landing 5.44 strikes per minute. That's a high work rate for this division. And then over to Randy Brown. Randy Brown is a fighter that we've seen shut off before, right? The one that stands out the most to me is the Nico Price KO loss that he had, where that was a very awkward one, if you guys remember. Nico Price hit him with hammer fist from a bottom position. It was crazy, but we saw Randy Brown's lights shut off when he was essentially in top position, in a ground and pound position on Nico Price. We've seen his lights shut off like that. We've hardly ever seen that take place in MMA before or after. So that has to say a little something about his chin. We also saw Luque shut his lights off back in 2020. Jack Della Maddalena, he did get the sub in the first round, but was touching him up very much, and the strikes set up that submission there. I think that Randy Brown is a fighter that's vulnerable to being finished via strikes, and when Battle is just in his face nonstop, I see Randy Brown breaking down. I think Brian Battle is one of the more likely fighters to get a knockout. Let's take a look at some available betting lines over at BetUS. His money line has been very interesting. He opened up as a -240. Did Battle, he went all the way down to a -175, and now he's back to a -225. So some interesting line movement here. You take a look at the under 1.5 for this fight. You can get that at +165. And if you're looking for that KO prop, it's going to be in the realm of a +250. A nice fat juicy line there. I think that Battle is very live to get a knockout. For my third pick, this one's going to be a little different. Stick with me because this one's going to be interesting, especially when we get over to the betting lines. I could easily see either of these fighters finding a knockout here. In the light heavyweight division, Anthony Smith taking on Dominick Reyes. Both these fighters have shown to be very dangerous as far as finishing fights. They've also shown to be very vulnerable defensively. We've seen both these fighters brutally finished in the past. Now, Dominick Reyes is the fighter I most likely see finding the knockout. He's coming off that bounce back victory in his last fight against Dustin Jacoby, a high level fighter, if you ask me. Dustin Jacoby is a talented kickboxer. That was a much needed victory for Reyes. Before that, he was on a 4-fight losing skid. If he would have lost that last fight, he would have been on a 5-fight losing skid. Who knows if he would have even had another opportunity to fight in the UFC. Who knows? I mean, he may have been cut. Okay, so he gets some much needed confidence coming off that knockout. He looked very good in that fight. We saw the quick hand speed from him. He's obviously a great athlete for this division, the former collegiate football player. I think Reyes is very live, not only to get the knockout, but to actually starch Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith has been looking very lethargic on the feet. He's been getting away with it in some of his fights, right? Like you think of the Ryan Spann fight, he was able to squeak by with a split decision. That was a fight where he was tagged up quite a bit. And I felt that if Spann had a little bit more energy and a little bit better cardio, he could have found that knockout. We've seen Smith touched up. Khalil Roundtree finished him back in 2023 in the 3rd round. Of course, Magomed Ankalaev finished him up in the 2nd round. Glover Teixeira, if you guys remember that fight, brutally ground and pounded him. Got that finish in the 5th round. Yes, Smith did show a lot of toughness in that fight. Never was looking for a way out in there as his teeth were falling in his hands and whatnot. But you take into consideration that he's now 36 years old. He's looking slower than ever. Dominick Reyes, when he's hitting on all cylinders, especially in that 1st round, he is live to KO you, and I just see that happening here. I really do. However, this selection's a little bit different than my other picks because I very well can see a knockout victory for Anthony Smith coming as well. And that's going to be interesting when we get over to the betting lines in a second. But don't think just because Dominick Reyes bounced back with the victory in his last fight that he doesn't still have questionable durability. He was knocked out with a jab by Ryan Spann and his fight previous to the Jacoby fight. If you guys forgot about that, he was knocked out in just a minute and 20 seconds. Of course, before that fight, he was brutally knocked out with a spinning elbow by Yuri Prohaska, was knocked out by Jan Blachowicz before that. Okay, he is still vulnerable to being knocked out. If you think that one victory just erases those 3 knockout losses that he had before that, you're sadly mistaken, okay? Because the fight game will circle right back to you. Okay, now let's go take a look at some of the available lines for this fight. You have the under 1.5 set at +135 over at BetUS. But if you're looking for the KO props, the more likely knockout scenario is Dominick Reyes landing that shot, but that's around -140. Not a ton of value there. While on the other hand, you can get Anthony Smith to find that knockout from the +750 up to +900 range, a much more valuable betting line. I said I was only going to pick 3, but I want to do an honorable mention for the Korean Superboy, Doo-ho Choi. I think he's a fighter that very likely finds a KO here over Nate Landwehr. This fight is kicking off the main card. The crowd's going to be going crazy. Nate Landwehr is a fighter that really pushes the pace. He's very tough and he will look to bring the fight, but we've seen him run into trouble before. We've seen him knocked out in the octagon twice already. And even in some other fights, he was hurt very badly and almost finished up. Yeah, he pushed through the Jamal Emmers fight, but don't forget, he took a lot of damage in that first round. The Korean Superboy is a sniper. He's coming off a KO victory, and he's a bona fide fight finisher. He is a knockout artist, okay? Some of you guys were poking some fun when I said Ian Gary is a knockout artist. Maybe that was a little bit of a slip of words there, but actually crunched the numbers, and he has his fair share of knockouts in the UFC. And if you take a look at all of his victories as a pro, there's a pretty solid ratio of knockouts there, but I know what you guys are saying. But back to the Korean Superboy, out of 15 of his victories, 9 of his documented victories have come by way of knockout. There's 5 undocumented victories. Take those for what you will. They probably all were knockouts. They have him at a 90% KO ratio when he's getting the job done. And you take a look at what he's done in the octagon when he's winning fights, coming off that Bill Algeo KO. That was an official play of ours that we caught at Dog Odds. You guys know we love that victory there. But if some of you guys are newer fight fans and you don't know what he was doing even back in the day, he's always a fighter that pushed the pace with his striking and showed to have success getting those early KOs. Knocked out Thiago Tavares, Sam Sicilia. If you guys remember, Sam Sicilia was a very tough fighter that actually had a pretty durable chin back in the day. He was a hard hitter in his own right. And he also kicked off his UFC career with an 18-second knockout victory over Juan Puig. So, I mean, that's what he does. And you take a look at the Cub Swanson fight. He hurt Swanson early in that fight, wasn't able to get him out of there, but he always shows to go into the cage looking to knock the opposition out. I think that this fight is going to have such a high pace. I mean, the KO can come from both sides. I just like the technical abilities that we've seen from the Korean Superboy. Nate Landwehr is a fighter that just doesn't mind biting down on his mouthpiece, getting bloodied up, and that could cause him to run into some damage here, in my opinion. And you guys can go check what available lines you can find for that. But I just wanted to throw that out there as honorable mention because I think we could see a knockout there as well. All right, boys, that's going to wrap this one up. Please comment below your top 3 lists for fighters that are going to get KOs on this card. I want to see it top to bottom with your most confident fighter who's going to find that KO at the top, and then your number 2 and number 3. I'm genuinely curious. I want to know if you guys agree with me or not. So I hope to get some feedback from you guys there. I'll meet you in the comments section. Go catch me on my social media. It's scrolling below. Go follow me on IG. Go follow me on Twitter. I'm working on some fun, creative content to push there, and that's the best way to keep up with me. If you guys want to see the bets I'm targeting after the card or on the night and all that, that's the way to get a hold of me. Go follow me over there. Hope you guys like this video. It means a lot to me if you can hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new. You're going to get all types of MMA betting content coming your guys' way here. I'll leave you guys with that. Signing out. Teller.
The Teller.